This podcast has mature language, not intended for underage viewers.
Street cred sports. Street cred sports. I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
Hello, this is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training, and welcome to another episode of Time to Ball. This is episode 31. 31 flavors, as they say. Man, they got me out in this hot-ass desert. Excuse me, mama. I hope y'all are doing well and staying cool, more than importantly. I learned about what they call it's a heat dome that we're going through. It's more than just a high ridge pressure. I'm always in the weather, so I'm always trying to understand things, and this heat dome it's like putting a dome and it's just hot. It's little wind, you don't have much moisture coming through. So it is shifting and it is making it miserable for everyone in the Southwest, and it's going to be moving to the east. So please take care of yourself. There have been numerous deaths, with people not being able to stay cool. Hey, check on your neighbors, call people, that might not have air conditioning, or just to be on the safe side, make sure they're doing good, or in that they don't need anything. We got to take care of each other, and we should be taking care of each other all times, right? Reaching out to family through text message. I try to text message people, that I don't talk to on a regular basis, just because, and I'm really busy, but I am working on my how do I call it, my time management, so you got to make sure you check on people to see how they're doing. You should do it all the time, but definitely in times of need. So yeah, stay cool. I hope when you listening to this, you chilling in the house, or if you're outside in the shade with a nice cool breeze and a fan on, drinking some lemonade. I don't say drinking, alcohol or anything, because I don't drink. So you probably will never hear any sponsors on here with the alcoholic beverages, unless they go throw me a ton of money, man. I don't know. I don't know if you want to call it being a sellout. I call it getting paid. I'm getting paid. I got bills to pay and all of that stuff. So without further ado, let me get into some of the things that are on my mind. I was listening to NBA radio. I love listening to NBA radio, and I especially listen to it when you have when you have players on, or coaches. I mean, they're talking X's and O's. They're talking kind of as a fan, but they're not talking from a fan perspective. So there's no bias, and you can tell when they're talking. You pretty much understand what they're saying, right? And sometimes you listen to some of these pundits and analysts and stuff, and mainly the pundits. Analysts are usually people who are analyzing because they played that sport. But you'll hear the pundits, and they're, this needs to do. So let me get into what I'm talking about. I was listening, and it was I think his name is JT. I don't listen to him as much, but he had Sam Mitchell on, and I'm a big fan of Sam Mitchell. Hey, let me tell you something. Sam Mitchell had me cracking up, and I love listening to him because he drops knowledge. If you're not familiar with him, he was the 2007 Coach of the Year, I believe, for Minnesota. I think it was Minnesota, or it could have been Toronto, but I want to say it was Minnesota. But I think it was Toronto. But in any case, he was coach. He played and stuff. So he's on these shows a lot, and he tries to bring a perspective, because the pundits are always trying to make it be something that it's not when they're explaining stuff, or when they're trying to talk, because they're trying to have that shock value. He gives you a real perspective. So they were talking about Doc Rivers, being fired. It's all about the free agency. They were talking about James Harden, and getting James Harden out. That he wanted Doc Rivers out, and should they keep James Harden? He hadn't really proved that he could take a team to the finals or win championship. He has a long history of performing poorly in big moments. Now, he had some big moments in the playoffs. He had a couple of, I think, 30 and 45-point games. I want to say against Boston. So he performed great in those games, but in the last game or two when they were going to close it out, he didn't do so well. So they were saying, well, hey, how did they put it? How did he put it? Well, Doc Rivers needed to be fired. So Sam Mitchell said, well, let me ask you something. Who are you gonna bring? You gonna bring in a new coach? You brought in a new coach, so he's got to give you 58 to 59 wins, and he's got to get you Game 7 to the Eastern Conference semifinals. That's what you got to get, because if you get a coach that doesn't get you there, then firing Doc Rivers wasn't the answer. And I thought about it, because my position on that. And I don't want to say Doc Rivers needed to be fired. I just pointed to something that I noticed in Game 7. Now, I know they talk about, Doc Rivers has a history of losing Game 7s at this team and that team and all of that stuff. That's baggage that you get, You miss layups, you miss free throws in certain spots, that's baggage that's going to follow you, right? What I noticed in Game 7, I want to say it was the beginning of the third quarter. That's when Boston made their run. Doc kept calling timeouts, and he was trying to get the team, let's go, hey, let's snap out of it and stuff. Now, I'm not going to get into play calling, because I felt like they should have had maybe a 4 or 5 minute stretch where they went into Joel Embiid exclusively. Don't nobody shoot the ball unless Joel's passing it to you for you to shoot. Right? I don't know what they were running and how they were running. I hadn't looked at film. I know there was a stretch of the game where, there have been stretches in games where Joel hadn't touched the ball and he's not demanding it. But what I did notice on the sideline when they call a timeout is the demeanor of the players. It really looked like they had just checked out. It really looked like they checked out. There were a lot of blank stares when Doc was talking. There wasn't, that communication, that eye contact that you want to have between coach and players that's necessary. And it just seemed like a lot of those players were just like resigned to the fact that, man, we losing. And it's crazy because it wasn't like they was up by 30 at that point. They had just made a run. They were up by 6 or 8. He calls a timeout. They go out. They make a few bad plays. Boston hits a few shots. Now it's like a 12 to 13 point lead. He calls another timeout. And throughout these timeouts, it looked like they checked out. So my point with Doc Rivers and with anybody is, at some point, it's time to move on because it's not working, right? Whether it's Doc or whether it's the players. Because it's not always. Look, I'm not one of these. And here's what Sam Mitchell said. He said, look, if he's preparing you because you're playing the team 7 times, you are prepared. You're being told these are their tendencies. This is the sets we run. This is what the person likes to. This is what they like to do defensively in this situation. This is what they like to do offensively in this situation. This is this person's strength. This is this person's weaknesses. Analyzing everything, right? So you have all you need. It's on the players to go out there, perform, and do all of those things. So Sam Mitchell's point was, if Doc Rivers wasn't doing all of that, then of course, yeah, okay, I can see it because he's not preparing his team. But I'd be hard pressed to find that any coach is not preparing his team. Now, there are some situations where you make bad calls, bad reads. Yeah, that's some do it. Some make bad reads. Some don't. Even the good ones, the great ones, make bad reads. And from what I've always seen, you're gonna have a play or two or a game or two where you just wasn't vibing. It didn't come out right. But the way the vibe was with that team was like, okay, they've hit their ceiling. Something has to change, right? And obviously, it's always easy to say the coach, but I really think that it was time for Doc to move on somewhere else because I don't think he was reaching those players. And that's just me. That's just me, and I could be totally off. I'm not opposed to being like somebody tell me, hey, K, I'm down with the Philadelphia 76ers, and no, that wasn't it. This, and this. It was more on that. Okay, I'm fine. But I'm really good at reading body language. I'm not professional, but I read body language really good. It's part of my job with what I do with training. And their body language and their demeanor was, we checked out. And this was before they were down 30. Before they could have gotten it underhand. Okay. Now, there's a segment of people, James Harden, I hate when people say, what, he's never going to get it done. Well, how do you know? You got a crystal ball? He hasn't gotten it done yet. He's been close, but he has baggage. And the only way for him to change the narrative is for him to get it done. That's really what it boils down to. The Joker, he hadn't got it done, although he's still early in his career. But the knock on him was, man, he can't get it done, right? He's a good player, but he can't get it done. And for me, I'll be the first one to say, I didn't think when the playoffs started that Denver would be in the finals. It worked out because they didn't have to play a 1-2, a 2 or a 3 seed in the West, or a 1, 2, or 3 or 4 seed in the East, but they got it done. Now, if they hadn't got it done, you would turn around and kill them for not getting it done. So you got to give them credit for winning. You can only play and beat who's in front of you. So can't blame them, but I would say, how much were y'all tested playing against the better teams? But, that's just, well, you can say that about anything, which is true. You can say it about any team. Kyrie, Kevin Love doesn't get hurt against Golden State, then maybe, they win. If Kawhi doesn't get hurt when they play Golden State, maybe they win. If KD and Clay doesn't get hurt against Toronto, maybe they win. So it's a lot out there where those kind of things happen, if not, but that's just why with players, but that's just the what if game. So, I really love the fact that Sam put it in perspective with that pundit, and he kept trying to go around and change and add different things, but he wasn't able to. So it was good to see that. But as far as that's concerned, my uncle Wu, shout out to my Uncle Wu, had to give me a call. We were talking about the Celtics because he's been a lifelong Celtics fan. And I explained to him, did Marcus Smart have to be traded? Look, maybe not. But I knew that after they lost, something needed to change. That roster, as it was constructed, seems to have reached its ceiling. Now, Marcus Smart being your point guard, I think was part of the problem. And when I say problem, I just mean from a standpoint of Marcus Smart wasn't running the team like a point guard because he never really had the ball. As a point guard, you got to get your team in sets. You heard Michael Malone. They had the sound on during the finals, and he was telling Jamal, if you can get your shot early in the shot clock, then you get it. If not, get us into a play. That's what a point guard is supposed to do. You got to be able to get your team in a play, and you have to have your thumb on the post, and you got to know, okay, all right, everybody's a little rattled. Let me go to this, right? Even if it's, okay, let me get by my guy and draw the defense in, and I'm going to give my big a couple of easy buckets, or let me post up my wing who right here on this elbow or mid elbow part, and I'm gonna get him a shot, and that's gonna slow everything down, so they can't rebound defensive rebounds and pushing up the floor, because that's demoralizing when you have 4 or 5 when they get defensive rebounds and they're pushing it up the court. That's what causes you problems. You need to see the ball go in, and it gives you more time to set up your defense. So I thought that Boston needed to make a change, and I think they needed somebody. I think if they'd have kept Marcus Smart at the 2 and brought in more of a point guard, traditional point guard, I think they would have been fine. But they moved him on, and I think he's going to do well in Memphis. I really think he's going to do well in Memphis. So it's just how the league goes. Let me move on to something else. I was discussing this with some of my kids and various kids that I train throughout the city. I'm not gonna put their name or their school out there, but what I have heard of is that there are some high school basketball programs with little to no off-season schedule or programs. They're not doing anything. They don't have a schedule. It's not a lot of schools. It's hey, they're doing strength and conditioning from 8 to 9. They're in there in the gym getting shots, working on skill development from 9 to 10. They take a break, and then in the evening you come back and you do open gym, or you do open gym right next to it. You're doing it so many days, right? You got a schedule so everybody knows what they need to be doing. I'm hearing from kids, and hey, maybe they're not in the know, but these aren't freshmen. These are sophomores and juniors, and some seniors. Like, now, we're just, we're not doing anything. There are some schools that don't have anything for their program. They don't do any off season, right? Okay, so I guess I could go ahead. No, I'm not gonna, because I have to get verifiable proof. I have one, but I don't want to put that person on blast. But there's a girls' school here that does nothing once season's over. Now, when you watch them play during the season, you understand why they're as bad as they are. You need to have a schedule, coaches. And it's weird to even say this, because I know a lot of coaches, and I know they live by schedules, but I know it could be lots of things where it's, the gym isn't available, or, maybe volleyball is using it, but you got to have backup plans. You got to have something to be like, look, this is what we're going to do on this day. You can look in the rec centers. Hey, can we come in and practice or something at your gym or something? You're not charging anybody, so the city usually lets you use it for free. You can work around it if you're creative. All right, but you got to have an off-season program. If you're preaching getting better, and you're preaching to your players about getting better, then it has to start with you. You can't have an off-season where your players aren't doing anything. You're not identifying the weaknesses of your players and saying, look, this is what you need to work on this summer, either with the training organization, either with the team, or you come in here and we're going to get it done because I need you to get better at this. Okay? You can't expect players to come in if you don't have any expectations or any type of training and stuff. I used to do this. I don't do it as much because now players, they're playing on teams that apparently are telling the players what they're going to work with them on, which is weird. But I used to give the players, high school players, at the end of the season a checklist and say, get this to your coach and let your coach help you fill out the things that they feel you need to get better at. And then we'll work really hard on those things to get you better at those things, so when the next season comes, you're a better player. But I just find it hard to believe. But when you hear numerous players talking about this, it tends to kind of say, okay, well, maybe there is something to it. So maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But when you hear it, over and over again, you have to start questioning as if it's some validity to it. So we'll see. Maybe somebody reach out to me and say, yeah, man, this program, they don't do anything, or no, that's bull. Every school program checks in or something and says, no, this is what we do. Because I see it on Facebook. I see it on Twitter. I see it on my Instagram. A lot of schools post their workout schedules. They're posting, hey, there's no open gym or no conditioning this week. Take the week off. Hey, we're in the gym this day. And they line it up. But not everybody's doing that. So it's one of those things. Okay, let me get on to one other thing that's on my mind is I mentioned I was talking to somebody, and we was talking about different teams and how different teams are doing things. I think it was with the city leagues and stuff. and, and this person referred to this kid in their, the kid in the, not the kid in the family, but the situation. And he didn't mean it in a rude or mean way. If you would have been there, you probably would have thought it was mean. I chuckled because I understood what the person was saying, but they were saying they basically said that the kid is like a nomad. And what they meant, what they were trying to explain was the kid is jumping from team to team, trainer to trainer, and they asked me how I trained a player, and I said, no, I hadn't trained a player. And he was like, well, it might be a matter of time before that player show up over here wanting you to train him. And I just kind of chuckled, but what is a nomad? A nomad is a person who just roams. So in the sense that, the way they were using this was just basically, they get on a team, and whether that team is playing good competition, whether that team is not playing the kid, they move on to another team, right? If they're in training, if the kid's not getting any better, they move to another trainer. Or if they're on a team and maybe they're doing well and stuff, but then this other team has new flashy uniforms or tennis shoes and they're saying they're going to play in this, they want to play with that team. Or that trainer, they see that trainer put some new flashy drill on their Instagram post, and then they're doing that. I had a funny, slightly off the subject, but on the subject. I saw a funny Instagram post, and this trainer was going over a defensive drill and kind of getting on the kids and parents and saying, man, y'all don't want real trainers. Y'all are in love with these people who get on YouTube and see some kind of drill, and then they do the drill and it's all hot and flashy, and that's what y'all fall in love with, but that's not helping your kid, get any better. And I just kind of chuckled because I was like, that's right. There are a lot of, because now everybody's a trainer, now whether it's good or bad, hey, I can say it because I've been in here 10 toes down I've been doing training here for over, as an organization, since 2008. When I started, nobody else was doing it. Now other people are doing it, and I'm not mad at them because, it helps. It helps to be able to have different organizations because ultimately, maybe my style isn't for everybody. I'm laughing. I'm not going to comment on that. But, there are people that train, and I've seen, I can't help but to see it because if you have your feed, there are often parents that are posting of their, look at little Jimmy or look at little Susie, she's out here getting this work and, no days off and everything. And I'm looking at the training and I'm like, man, what the hell is that you're doing to them? And then they'll show a clip of them playing in the game, and they're doing this same little stuff that, it might have worked then, but it doesn't always work in certain situations. So they don't seem to be translating from what they're showing them to do, what they're doing in the training. That's not translating in the game all the time. But, I mean, look, if the parents and the kid are happy, then I guess that's what matters. But the kid has to be getting better. The kid has to be practicing and applying that to be getting better for it to be to where you're really satisfied. So in any case, it was the kid trained from trainer to trainer. He was over at this trainer, then he's over at that trainer, and it's like I'm real big, and I had to put a stop to it, not because I was not that I was hurt or in my feelings, but when you train for as long as I've trained, you pick up lots of details and how to fix stuff. And having kids go to a different trainer and then come back over here, I was noticing that, look, I know I just worked on this. Why isn't this kid, oh well, they're training over here. And then as they explained, I was like, oh well, they're not training, they're doing workouts. That's different. You get a group of kids and you're doing all these dribble. That's not training if you're not correcting it. So I had to start telling parents, look, if they're going over there, keep them over there if they're happy. I said, but I have to fix what the bad habits that they're allowing them to do. So that keeps the development down, because if I gotta spend 10 to 15 minutes on that, that's 10 to 15 minutes that I can't be exploring on something else. So that's the only reason I do it. Now there are a couple of people here that I know, that I'm really close to and stuff, that if they're training there with them and they're training here with me, I'm okay with it. If I've seen them train, and I understand what they're doing, I get it. And here's the thing. Some if you're on one part of town and there's a training service over in that area, then logistically it makes sense. Now for me, I have people coming from everywhere. I just had a girl over here who was in from San Antonio. I got a girl here from Tennessee. So I get people coming, from all over, which is, to me, it's just a testament to the work that we put in, and how much people speak highly of what we do, which is great. But I'm not gonna. Now there have been a couple that I've had to tell people, like, look, I'm not saying you need to come to me, but you shouldn't be going there for training. That person has no idea what they're doing, right? You got people doing camps, and it's like camps. And it's like, wait a minute, hold on. This person doesn't even know how to dribble and shoot. How are they going to do a camp? But I get it. I know, I understand why some are doing it. You got to try to do something to try to help the kids. But I really think if, you should try to contract out with with somebody, a trainer or somebody who really knows how to, get the best out of them when you're doing these camps. So these kids and these parents see a semblance of, these kids getting better. But that's kind of how it is. But that term nomad was so funny. It was so funny, man. I was laughing when he said nomad. He's like, man, they might walk in your door today, and they might be walking next door the next day. All right, so let me get to my basketball ideology. But first, let me get to my basketball dictionary term. Okay, so first term I'm gonna talk about is called a horns. Horns is an action that's run. Well, why is it horns? It sounds funny, but it's, if you draw it schematically, it's like horns on a bull. So let me give you a visual. You got your player, you got your point guard running down, coming down the court, middle of the lane. He's dribbling down, kind of, slower. He's crossing half court. You have two post players. Usually, sometimes they don't have to be. And let's say the two post players are at the elbow, one on each elbow. A horns action is when both of those post players come up to set a screen on the point guard's defender, and the point guard chooses which way he or she's gonna attack. Now, to make the horns play not be to not be stagnant, you want one player to rim run, or set the screen and then drop to the rim, and you want the other player to be able to pop out. This way defenses have to kind of give up something. So if I'm dribbling to the right and the person on the elbow comes and sets the screen, I'm probably gonna make that player drop to the basket. And if the other player is on the other side, they can go pop out for a catch and shoot. Right, so it's hard to really do it without giving y'all an actual visual, but that's kind of what horns is. So so that's I'm trying to think of a different way to explain it, but that's pretty much what the horns play is, or action is. Okay, so next would be what I call push and pull. Okay? Push and pull. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by push and pull is kind of a term that I created. What I mean is, if I'm dribbling the ball at the top, right? I have the ball at the top of the key, and I'm gonna dribble right, either penetrating to the paint, or I'm dribbling kind of towards the right side to the wing, and I have a player on the wing. That player has to push towards the goodness. I'm sorry. It's because I'm at training, and I thought I'm hearing a sound like somebody's knocking on the door. But that player has to push towards the corner. So as they push towards the corner, they're still creating that space for me. All right. A pull would be if, let's say, I'm on the wing and I start to dribble up towards the top of the key, and my teammates is in the corner to my right. I start to dribble up left towards the top of the key. That player pulls up towards the wing. So it's basically one of those things where, in a nutshell, if I'm dribbling towards you, you run away from me. If I'm dribbling away from you, you run towards me, because you're still filling in gaps and then still creating an opportunity. If your player helps, I'm going to be able to kick it out to you for a catch and shoot. So those are the two terms today, push and pull, and the other one was horns. I hope I explained it right. It might not have been, as great as I needed to, but I'm like I'm like Patti LaBelle when she was on BET, y'all, when she was singing Tina Turner's song and she couldn't sing the words, and she said, "I'm trying, y'all, sing with me." But apparently it was a teleprompter thing. But hey, it was funny. It was funny. Okay, so let me get to my basketball ideology. All right, so one thing I do want to discuss on my basketball ideology is kids who don't want to play past high school. And it's odd, because I've had quite a few who were good enough to play college. They were getting colleges looking at them, sending me information, contacting me about them, but they didn't have any interest. And it was, I've had to, because when I started this, my job was any kid who came through my door, I wanted to get them good enough to be able to play college. That was my goal. I wanted them to be able to play college, and if I couldn't get them there, then, I failed them, right? But as I started to do this, I started to notice that there were different types of people. There were kids who, they just did it for fun. They just, parents wanted them to stay active, so they weren't doing it to be the next, Michael Jordan or what have you. There were kids who were doing it. They just wanted to be the best they could be in high school, right? They had no interest in playing college. There are kids that just want to make the team. They don't even want to play. They just want to be able to be on the team, on the bench with the uniform. So we get a lot of different kids in here, and it's shifted my opinion. Now, the way we train them doesn't change, but our expectations for them has to align with their expectations for themselves. So it's always been a real interesting thing with dealing with kids, because some kids don't tell us until after they're almost done with their senior year. And I always wonder if it's because they're not getting college interest that they're not interested in playing, or whatever it is. But then you have kids who they do all of this stuff. They they train, they get on the travel team, they have a profile, and then after the season or at some point, they're like, nah, I don't want to play no more. Even with college, because trying to contact them. And that's the weirdest for me. That is the weirdest for me, because I have kids that that have told me early on, like, they have no interest they just want to play high school. They want to be really good in high school, and that's it. So then what I explained to them is, okay, we can do the training. If that's, you want to be better at those things, I get that. I said, but you don't want to be doing travel team. You don't want to be playing in travel team, spending that money to travel. You don't need to, be creating no profiles for no recruiting services because you have no interest in that. I said, technically, you don't need to train. You can just go to school and work out on your own. But then they say, yeah, but, the stuff that I get here with you, I can't find anywhere else. Nobody knows how to do the things that you do and stuff. And I was like, okay, I get that. So, I try to make sure that I have a plan for them to try to help them out, because I don't want them to feel like they don't know what to do. Okay, so, but it is always odd to have players that are doing that, and I sometimes have to get on them, and parents say, you know what, if he don't want to play college ball, he or she doesn't want to play college ball, why are you forcing them to play on a travel team where you're gonna spend a whole lot of money traveling? He or she might not even play, but if they play and they're getting looks, then those colleges contacting you, but you don't want to play, then you're kind of holding things up. If put it this way, if colleges had 10 people they're looking at, if 4 of them know they don't want to play, now you got 6, or you can look at 4 other players, right? So you're still giving people opportunity. So it was just weird to hear that come from a coach. I mean, not from a coach, but from a player. The next thing I want to get into is, I guess it amazes me how non-offensive minded a lot of players are that we get, when we first get them. And here's what I mean. When I'm doing drills, or okay, like if I get a kid and and they're having problems with their offense, okay, and so we go through the offense. Okay, this is the offensive set they're running: 4 out, 1 in, 5 out, 3 out, 2 in, and we go through their play. So when we go through their play is such that, hey, you know what, you're going to catch the ball here. All right, and then, this is what you're supposed to do. You pass here and you cut, or you pass, you set screen, or, whatever it is. And I'll tell them, okay, so when we get the ball here, once they set the screen, okay, you go over the screen. Okay, what are you looking at? And almost to a T, 99.99% of those kids say, well, I'm looking to pass out to the front, or I bring it back out and reset it. And I just look at them and say, well, do you not understand that if this screen works the way it's supposed to, you're going to have a wide open layup? And then they'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, you know what? I wasn't thinking about that. It amazes me that most kids, mostly all of the kids that we have, when we first get into that conversation, they're non-offensive minded. They're looking to run the play. And I understand that you have to run the play. The ball has to move. The ball finds who it's supposed to find. That's what some NBA coaches and college coaches and even high school coaches say. The ball finds who it needs to find. But I feel like you got to give that person an opportunity to understand that it found them what they need to be looking at doing. Like, hey, okay, we're swinging the ball. We're swinging the ball right here. If everything goes well, this is when you should be looking to catch and attack, or catch and shoot, right? You see a lot of plays, and most of them, the kids are usually catching and shooting. I don't always see plays where they're catching throughout the play. They're catching to attack. Usually they catch it and they like maybe dribble out and then they try to go one-on-one. But I'm saying when you swing that ball, let's say it's a dribble kick out. When you dribble and then you pass it out, as soon as they're catching the ball, they understand where the help side is and stuff. So they're catching it to attack, either a 1 or 2 dribble pull, or they're getting to the lane to finish, or they're dribbling, pulling everybody in and kicking it out to an open shooter. But it was just amazing to me to understand and see how so many players are non-offensive minded. Coaches, if I were y'all, I'd test it. Talk to your players and ask them about it. Hey, well, okay, we're in this set, we're running this play, and pick an instance where that player should be looking to drive. Not drive and make a 2 or 3 dribble counter move, but in this instance, when you catch the ball, you should be catching it, taking 1 to 3 good dribbles and laying it up. You should have a wide open layup or a kick out to the corner if that defensive player slides over to help. You probably will be amazed at what you hear. Now, whose fault is it? We got to take responsibility and put it on the coaches. Now, it's not that the coaches to me are doing something mean or bad, because they're focused on running the plays and making sure everybody understands the play and what they should be doing and run it over. Because if you don't run the plays enough in practice, kids will forget. Hell, you see college players and NBA players forget where they're supposed to be sometimes and run it wrong. So you want them to be robotic in the understanding of where they need to be, but you also want them to have free will and free thought process to understand where they should be. What concepts they can get out of that play. So I would look at talking to them about concentrating on the attack points, the weak points where they should be looking to drive. Now, obviously, you got to have a balance, which is, right. But you want to make sure that players know what they can and can't do when. It's important, because if they don't know it, you're going to have opportunities missed. And when you have opportunities missed, then you get frustrated as a coach because, the player missed it. But if you haven't drilled, or if you haven't given that player the opportunity and the freedom to do it, they're not going to take it. So we give them that opportunity and freedom, and I tell them, look, and some of y'all might be upset with me. I tell them, look, you take this shot or you take this drive, it's going to be here. And once you get here, these are your options. Now that player, if you got good players and a good IQ, you want them making decisions. If you got a player that they struggle with situations, then you don't want to put them in that situation. That's just common sense. Doesn't mean that player is stupid or nothing. It just means that player struggles in there. We all struggle in different things in different ways. So, but I found it fascinating that some players, don't think offensive minded. They think non-offensive minded. So that's going to be all for today with the regular version. I'm going to be doing some bonus content. I'm going to talk about, whether I'm a new school or old school approach with my training. And then I'm going to talk about expectations versus reality. Parents who think, their kids are going to be superstars fast without understanding that it takes time. So that's going to be on the bonus content. Subscribe to the podcast so you can get a lot of the bonus content that we have, plus the drill aspects. I have drills on my Patreon website, and you can pay. It's $10 subscription for just the regular drills, or the $20 version for the fix it, and you have access to all of these different drills. Oh man, that was an alarm. So if y'all heard that little tone, that was an alarm. Let me know I need to get out of here, I guess. But with all of that said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I want you guys to stay safe and stay cool. And remember, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.